All right, we back up in here. Another edition of the Done There Been There podcast brought to you by the Inflection Entertainment Network and iHeartRadio. I am your host, Mike Hill.
And I'm Ephraim Salam. And thank you guys for being a part of this episode with us. We're going to talk about navigating loss.
Yeah. Well, make sure you subscribe as well as we continue to navigate through our journey on the Done There Been There podcast. Thank you for hanging out with us through the first couple of episodes. We've had a lot of time, but we're going to talk about navigating loss, man, because obviously everybody has experienced a loss, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's a job, whether that's a friendship or whatever. But how do you navigate it? And I think we've gone through a couple of things and experiences in our lives that we like to pass along some of our, or maybe our tips and help some people out there.
Yeah, but just to talk about it, you know, what I've learned is, you know, during times of loss, if you have the courage to speak about it, speak about how you feel, so many times we say, I'm good.
Yeah.
So many times we say, I'm good. Man, you all right? Everything's good? I'm good, man. You know, I'm just dealing with something. I'm good. In reality, most people aren't good. And so as you try to navigate loss, the thing with losing something, whether it be a relationship, like you said, a job, or people you love, life keeps going. The world continues to go.
Yeah.
So although you may be going through something, still got to go to work.
Yeah.
Still got to take care of the kids in some situations. You still have to be attentive to your partner. And so how do you navigate all of these things while you're dealing with loss? And
well, how do you navigate it? How do you go through it? How do you get through when you find yourself in a position where you've lost something that you thought at that time was important to you or was important to you?
So this year has been particularly difficult for me when it comes to loss. Late last year, my surrogate mother, Valerie Taylor, passed away. My brother, Deion Taylor, grew up with him, lived with him. She took me into her house. She passed away, and it was devastating. And, you know, we really relied on each other, right? And we would just spend hours, Deion and myself would just spend hours, you know, talking and laughing about the good times, right? Like the one thing Valerie would do, she would cuss your ass out in a minute,
Right. Yeah,
right? Like she just bust into the house and just let loose on you. As growing teenage boys, one thing we were always afraid of was her. And that kept us on the straight and narrow. Like we couldn't come home smelling like a cigarette. We couldn't come home drunk, not doing our homework. Like it was off the table.
Ain't nothing more powerful than a black woman. You and Deion are big boys. Too.
Yeah. Man, please. But what that did was it kept us focused.
Right.
And so losing her was difficult for both of us. It was a lot of, you know, crying and all that, but us expressing what she meant to us.
Yeah.
She not only parented us, but she opened her house to everybody, anybody that needed a place or stability. She was there, and she was an angel. And it was difficult, man. But having him and others to share those moments with, it made it tolerable. Right? Didn't ease the pain all the way, but it made it almost comforting to share that level of compassion and honesty with other people.
When you remember the legacy of somebody and the lessons that they left behind, it keeps them alive, so to speak, because they continue to live throughout you and throughout your brother. Yeah. Because you can continue to instill that in other people. You pass along the lessons that you learn from her along the way to your children.
Absolutely.
So then,
without the cussing, we don't do the.
Sometimes you got to cuss them up.
Well, when they get a little bit older, when they're 13, and my 13-year-old I almost be cussing at him. He crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But my 10-year-old, he's emotional and he's good. But how
Kids can't handle the things we went through back in the day. Oh, yeah, boy.
No,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be able to.
They
either.
shouldn't, and that's why thankfully they got therapy early because we had no therapy.
We did not have therapy. Our parents didn't have therapy.
Yep. And so and speaking of that, because I believe that's a huge part of dealing with loss too, is because like growing up, growing up, we were taught that, first of all, don't cry. You got to suppress this pain. You got to be a man. You got to man up. There was no therapy. There was no way to overcome that grief. You had to cry alone. You can by yourself or whatever. Even at a funeral, man, you're wearing the glasses so people don't see your tears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was always difficult. So it's good that today's society, when they deal with grief, they're allowed to express themselves. I have a good friend of mine who just lost her daughter.
Oh, wow.
And she couldn't cry for a while. I'm like, girl, I said, no one should tell you how to grieve. She was going out. She was like a week later, she was hanging out with her friends, and people were like, how could you be hanging out? I'm telling her, I'm like, you grieve the way you feel like grieving.
Period.
Don't worry about what other people have to say about how you express yourself. But you're going to have moments, and maybe for the rest of your life, where 40 years from now, there's going to be a moment that's going to remind you of your daughter. There's going to be a smell that reminds you of your daughter, and you're just going to bust out crying, and that's okay. And people need to realize that.
Yeah, when you're dealing with things, especially the loss of loved ones, and like I said, this has been a particularly tough year. So Mama Valerie passed away late last year. My father, passed away in June.
Oh, wow.
Pancreatic cancer. Got diagnosed in February, passed away in June. So that was 2 parenting figures that I lost. And I was like, man, this is like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot. You start to ask yourself, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm 48 years old, so you got to realize, like, time is time. You can never stop it. You can never get it back.
Right.
And my father was 82. Valerie was in her 70s. And just to show you how life continues to go and how life keeps lifing, 2 days ago, John Hellman Sr., another parental figure in my life, passed away.
Wow.
I get a call last week on a text Tuesday. My good friend John Hellman, the only reason I'm playing football is because John played football. And I lived with John my 8th grade year and half of my 9th grade year before I moved in with Dion. And his father was a single father who adopted him, and he welcomed me into his home. And he made every single football game, like everything. Like he was there for us. And to get that text, hey, my dad's not doing well, I immediately got on a plane, went up to Sacramento, sat with him in the hospital, and he called me 2 days ago and said, hey, man, Dad passed away. I just wanted you to know that he loved you. He was proud of you. And so that's 3 of my parental figures who are now gone. And it was like a truck hit me.
Yeah. And that's a lot in a small amount of time.
It felt like, I'm like, okay,
what's next?
What's next?
Right.
Right. You can't, as a human, you can only ask that question because it just keeps coming. I immediately picked up the phone and called my mother and said, hey, I don't know what's going on, but you better hold on to that rope.
Yeah.
You the last one like that.
But once again, on that point, it makes you appreciate the people who are here a little bit more. You start to cling to them. You start to realize that, hey, like, you can't take it for granted. You have to appreciate your life. You got to do things in your life that you want to do and realize that tomorrow's not promised for anybody. That's why you got to love up on your neighbors, your friends, your loved ones as much as you can while you can, man. Like, and I'm sympathetic and I'm empathetic for everything that you've gone through, man. I've told you, bro, like, the last 2.5 years of my life, man, have been the tougher years of my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I just turned 54 years old, and the things I've gone through, man, like I thank God. I know it's only by God's grace that I'm still here, because had I not experienced a lot of things in my life earlier in my life, when we're talking about helping you through things, the things I've gone through over the last 2.5 years would have killed me. It would have killed me. But because of what I've experienced in the past, sort of prepared me in a sense, or gave me a different skin or a different muscle to help me through it. But I've never experienced everything all at the same time. I've been divorced before, right? But in the last 2.5 years, I had another divorce. I've lost loved ones, but in the last 2.5 years, I've lost 4 people that were close to me to death. I've lost friends before, but recently I've lost a lot of people who were close to me, and all at the same encompassing time, man. And what I've learned from that is, like, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. But sometimes you wonder if God knows how much you can handle, man, because you're wondering when it's going to end, man. But we are both huge when it comes to therapy and mental health, and now being able to express ourselves and being able to let it go and being able to let the tears flow, because before I would suppress it.
Well, yeah, like you talked about your upbringing, right? Little boys are always taught to suck it up. You don't be crying, don't do that, and don't do this. And so you grow up with that hardened sense of emotion. You don't know how to tap in to that side of your emotions, which makes you an imbalanced person, because there is no all vibrato or toughness without sadness, emotion, and fear. And if you don't tap into that, you won't be able to deal with loss in a productive way.
Right.
And it's funny to try to say deal with loss productively, but there are unproductive ways you can go about loss, dealing with loss, right? Inflicting pain on yourself or others, and drug use, alcoholism, all of these things to numb the pain instead of living in the pain and dealing with the pain. Like, I don't drink or smoke, never have. So the reality of the situation is I've never been able, through anything that I've gone through in my life, I've never been able to go home and take the edge off.
Right.
I've never been able to go
So
sit.
what was your outlet then? How did you deal with that trauma? Because I'm gonna get to the reason why I did a lot of things, but how did you deal with that trauma? Because if you don't have that outlet, it's sitting there somewhere, and it's gonna come out as toxic masculinity. It's gonna come out as some kind of vice that you need to release that.
I would internalize it, right? I would run off and I would escape to the movies. So I would go sit in a movie theater by myself and just leave the world behind. That's why film to me is so important.
Okay.
That's why I got into film production. That's why I got into television and into entertainment, because I know the power of letting go and getting sucked up into something.
Escapism.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I know the power of that. So creating those mediums for someone else to be able to sit in and deal, or just find some peace while they're dealing with things, to me was very important. And that's why I really got into it, and telling the types of stories that I know people would want to hear and be able to get swept up in, so you can find a piece of escapism. The world is tough, man. It's not, I don't care. It doesn't have anything with your socioeconomic background, how much money you make, where you were born. Pain is pain, loss is loss. And we all have our ways to deal with it.
Yep.
And, you know, I've watched people self-medicate before. I've seen, people have a sip of wine, or, go to the bar and all of that. So for me, it was just movies and video games.
Well, I commend you for turning your burden into a blessing, because you learned the lesson and you did it in a positive way. And a lot of people don't even see how you can turn something negative into a positive, and how your trauma can be something that's positive. And that's rare. And this is the first time I've ever heard somebody say it that way. So maybe that is an outlet. Find something positive instead of the negative, because I told you before, and I've said it many times, man. I think people understand that now. It's like I know part of my pain of why I did a lot of things that I did, and not using this as an excuse. I still take full accountability for everything I've ever done in relationships or whatever. But I know from therapy and talking it through the why of why I was a womanizer, because that made me feel good. That was my cocaine. That was my alcohol. That was because I've never abused alcohol. I've never abused cocaine, anything like that. But when I was feeling down, depressed, when I was feeling inadequate, I would always turn to a woman because a woman would make me feel better. Not just the sex, but some of the things that a woman would say to you. You're a king, you're beautiful, and you hear these things, and it's almost like it feeds a different endorphin, man, and it makes you feel better about yourself. And so I'm not saying that, if you're not hearing it at home, that you should go find it other places. But if you're not hearing it at home, and you're going through this and the person you're with doesn't understand, you start to lean towards it. Now, what I've learned that because I go through therapy, that I have to feed myself, even if I'm not being fed by someone else.
Yeah.
Loving yourself, overcoming loss, loving yourself is so much more important than anyone else loving you, because you cannot expect anyone to love you unless you love yourself. You have got to pour into yourself. You got to feed yourself. You have got to make yourself happy before anybody else makes you happy. And so you can't supplement that from anything else, even when you're dealing with a loss.
And you're absolutely right. And people will ask you, well, how do I make myself happy? Right? Like, what do I do to make myself happy? And my advice, not that I'm a therapist, but I am in therapy.
Yeah.
My advice would be, find the one little thing that you love doing. And I mean the little thing. It could be a crossword puzzle. It could be the smallest thing that, for however long you do it, you just feel safe. And focus in on that thing. It could be pouring yourself into others, your family, your significant other, your kids, whatever that is that brings you joy. It's the only way that you can really encompass loss. And I tell you this, everyone's different. Everyone experiences loss and deals with it in different ways.
Right. And at different times, and it takes time.
But we're human. And the one thing, you said it right there, the one thing that we all have in common is time.
Yes.
Time is the great equalizer, because no matter how painful something is today, tomorrow is less painful.
Yeah.
And you may not feel that it's less painful, but the day after tomorrow, it's less painful.
What's the you may endure weeping for tonight, but joy comes in the morning.
You never know.
And you never know. But once again, it's like, you have an opportunity. Once again, when you lose something or someone, realize that tomorrow is not guaranteed. But if you get that opportunity, use that as the blessing. And to a point of switching things around, going through therapy has also made me realize that not just losing loved ones, but losing jobs and losing opportunities and things like that. In the last 2.5 years, lost a job. Had this main job that I was doing, making great money, national show and everything. Go to work one day, wake up the next morning, and the show's bankrupt and you're out of work. Gone. And that was 2.5 years ago. And I haven't had anything consistent since then, but I've been hustling and I've found my way. But once again, sometimes, bro, loss, and people hate to see it that way, but sometimes loss is the best thing for you. Not the loss of a loved one, honestly. Right. You hate to see anybody lose a loved one. Keep their legacy. But when you lose friends, and when you lose opportunities or jobs, and I told you about some of the opportunities, I told you that there was a situation where I heard that somebody was speaking negatively about me for whatever reason, because I was on the Housewives show. Cost me a huge opportunity because of that or whatever. All they had to do is say the magic words of this and that. And I wasn't able to get that opportunity. But when I was upset at the beginning, I was like, what if that person did me a favor, because all opportunities aren't the right opportunities.
Oh, that's a fact. Yeah.
All friendships that you have, sometimes you'll lose a friend because that friend isn't meant to go with you in the next phase of your life. That friend could have been an anchor. That friend could have dragged you down. That friend may not be ready for you to take that next step in the blessings that you have or the favor that you have in the next step of your life. In order for you to get that favor, in order for you to get that next blessing, you had to cut ties with the person that was holding you down. So sometimes loss is good.
Yeah, we don't see what tomorrow holds. We don't know the future, right? If you're spiritual and you believe in God, it's all part of God's plan, right? It's all been written, right? And so while you're haggling over the whys, start looking for, the next step, right? Don't wonder why this and why that. How about now what?
Now what? Okay.
Right? How about now what? All right. I lost that opportunity. So now what?
Right.
All right. Man, we fell out. I loved her. We're no longer together. Okay, so now what? Right? Because there is something at the end of the now what. There is an answer to that question. There may not be an answer to the why until you get to what's next. Oh.
Yep.
Now I see.
Yep.
Right? Broke up with her. 6 months later, I end up meeting the love of my life, my wife. You don't know. Oh, my God.
That's probably not going to happen.
I didn't get I didn't get the job.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted that job. That was my dream job. 6 months later, right? Oh,
Can
my
I tell you
God.
a story on that?
Go ahead.
Especially that part right there. When I was in Dallas, got fired in Dallas. Long story, terrible boss, whatever.
You're getting fired from a lot of jobs,
Well,
man. Don't get fired from this one, man. We need this one, man. Hey, whoever out there, don't fire him, man. We
right
doing
now,
this.
Every time that something has happened,
Yeah.
a bigger blessing came.
There you go.
So that's the way I
hope
look at it.
this the big blessing.
I hope this could be the
one
big
that's
blessing or
one.
whatever. But I got fired. That was the only time I've ever been fired. Other times have been like, anyway, let go. Well, that time I got fired, I was out of work for a year and a half. Had a family, newborn child, everything, man, dire straits. I was desperate. Finally couldn't get anything. Felt like I was being blackballed in the business. Finally, some doors started opening up. There was an opportunity in Tampa. That's when I was working in Dallas. Went to Tampa, did the audition. This man tells me, he says, as long as I don't find out you're an axe murderer. That's his direct quote.
Okay.
As long as I don't find out you're an axe murderer, this is your job. I go next door to take the piss test. You take the piss test, you pretty much in there.
In.
I said, I ain't smoked no weed, so I know I'm good. I ain't no axe murderer, I ain't smoked no weed. So I'm going to get me a job. I'm going to get back in this business. I've been out of the year for a year and a half. Take that. Don't hear anything for 2 weeks, bro. Don't hear anything for 2 weeks. I called back to this producer I met while I was there. Bro, what's going on? I'm like, I had started looking at houses in the Tampa area, everything. I'm just doing the job, knowing the job's mine. He said, they're not going to bring you in because the guy who fired you in Dallas is talking negatively about you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm pissed, man. I'm in my car, getting my Ford Explorer at the time. I'm going down the turnpike in Dallas, and I'm about to hurt this dude. I swear to God, Ephraim, I'm about to hurt this dude. Somebody going to jail that night. Somebody going, I'm dead serious, bro. This is the maddest I've ever been in my life, man. I'm serious, man, because he's now, not only did this man fire me, without cause or whatever, unfairly, but now you're messing with my future, and I didn't do anything to do
and my family's livelihood.
And this is my family, man. I'm looking at my child. I want to feed my kids, man. I'm on that turnpike, man. I'm mad. I'm like, I'm going to go to jail tonight because I'm going to hurt this man. I swear to God. I don't know what it was, but I was so hot, and it had to be like 95 degrees at night in Dallas. You know how it gets some. I was so hot, the air conditioner's blowing, man, and nothing would cool me down, so I let my window down. When I let the window down, I swear to God, bruh, and I think, boy, I get emotional even thinking about this. I swear to God, bruh, I heard a voice that said, what you doing? He said, you about to mess it up. you about to, woo. He said, you about to mess it up. And as mad as I was, bro, just that quickly, man, I calmed down to the calmest I've ever been in my life, man. I got off the turnpike, turned back around, went home, I prayed. And I said, God, whatever you want me to do, just let me know what's going on, bro. 3 weeks later, man, ESPN called me. Had I gotten the job in Tampa, I would not have been available for ESPN. I didn't really want the job in Tampa. I needed a job in Tampa.
Right.
I wouldn't have been available for ESPN. Had I gone down there that night and carried that through,
you was going to prison. You was going to jail.
I would not be sitting with you right now.
Now you would be an axe murderer.
Yeah, my career would have been over, bro.
Yeah, man.
So imagine so the fact that man caused me to not get that job in Tampa was a blessing. It was a blessing because had he not said anything, I would have accepted that job in Tampa. I would have been down there doing the job at the last PlayStation.
Yeah.
In a market that I really didn't want to be in at that time or whatever, doing something I probably didn't want to do, and I would not have been available to go to ESPN. It wasn't my time. So that loss turned out to be the biggest thing in my life and my career. And without that, I know I wouldn't be in the position I am right now because those 4 letters I met you at ESPN.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The things that platform, those 9 years, and I can talk about what I went through, the ups and downs there, but I know because of that platform, man, it elevated me to a point to be in the position that I am today.
Put you on a national stage.
It put me on a national stage every day. And I became a name.
Yep.
I became a name in the sports community that I still have because of that. I had my job at Fox because of ESPN. I married my last wife because of ESPN. Everything that I have was because of that network, because of that opportunity. And that opportunity wasn't going to be there had I messed it up or had that man not been a blessing for me when I thought he was a burden.
So you were in the car on your way to get the answer to why.
I was going to find out
the
why.
You were going to find out the why. Something called to you. You went home.
Mm-hmm.
You prayed on it.
Yep.
And you prayed for the what now?
I prayed for the what now. I said, what do you want me to do? Just wait. He said, wait, be patient.
And 3 weeks later, your life changed. Your family's life changed.
Man, my life. And what's crazy is 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, I got a call from Houston, right? Saying, we want you to fly in for this job opportunity, whatever. I go down there a week later to audition in Houston. I'm on the set and audition, did a good audition, get to the airport. When I'm in the airport, while I'm in the airport, my agent calls me, says, oh, you got the job. I'm like, what, Houston already? Like, no, it's not Houston. She said, ESPN wants you. I was up for a role with this show called Cold Pizza at the time in New York.
I remember that, yeah.
I had auditioned at ESPN before, whatever, right? Didn't hear anything from it. As a matter of fact, I heard from ESPN. They said I didn't get the job. A guy named Dari Noka, who was a good friend of mine, love him to death. He got the job over me, right? And I guess I finished in second or whatever. And so they said, we want to fly you in to, look at cold pizza and all that type of stuff like that, right? Cool. I was thinking about that. While I'm in Houston, once again, get the job at I get the phone call at the airport from my agent. My agent says, Mike, you got the job? I'm like, what? She said, no. She said, ESPN wants to fly you in. ESPN wants to hire you. I'm like, what? So I went from almost getting a job in Tampa, not getting a job in Tampa. Houston opportunity comes along thinking it's Houston.
Yeah.
All these doors start opening up. Oh, also Fox Sports Southwest, a regional, wanted to hire me. So all these doors opened up because that door closed in Tampa. Because the door closed basically in Dallas a year and a half, because I would have been content in Dallas with that guy. And the guy that he hired after me was down there for 17 years before the other guy retired. He's just now the main guy. But I'm telling you, man, sometimes the biggest losses in your life turn out to be the biggest gains.
And to that point, relationship-wise, I think I was in 6th year in the league, going into my 6th year. And I had really loved this girl I had met in college. We were on again, off again. She stepped out. I was off playing. She was living her life.
When you mean stepped out, what do you mean? Like she?
No, we weren't together.
Okay.
She had a baby. And
not yours.
No,
okay.
not mine.
Okay.
And didn't work out with her baby's father at the time and all of that. And so we started connecting again. and she was really depressed and all of that. I'm like, look, man, it's all good. We just, this off season, we'll come hang out. I said, pick anywhere you want to go, just so we can get away and whatever. And she said, I've never been to Jamaica. So we go to Jamaica, had a wonderful time, right? We come back home, and I was like, look, whatever it is you want to do, I'm down. All right? She was like, all right, I just need some time, take some time. I said, all right, boom. And so about a month and a half, 2 months later, she calls me and was like, hey, I need to tell you something. I said, okay, what's up? She was like, I'm getting back with my son's father, and we're going to get married.
Wow.
And I said, okay. I said, look, I'm here. We were friends before we were anything. Whatever you need, let me know. I wish you the best. 2 months later, I'm in LA at the BET Awards, and I'm staying at the Mondrian, and I'm looking out the balcony, and they setting up for a big party down there. So I go down, I'm like, what's going on, man? What's popping? And they're like, Beyonce is having an album release party, right? This was June 2023.
Not 2003.
2003. 2003. And so I'm like, all right, cool, boom, we there. I'm at the party, we down there, everybody there, boom, 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 boom. And this young lady is over where I am, and we start talking and hitting it off. And 21 years later, we've been married for 18 of them.
Wow. Had you been with the other girl in that situation, had she not taken herself out of the equation and gotten back,
at the time,
you wouldn't have been available. Because I know you're a one woman type of guy.
I'm good, man. I just want to be in love. I just want to love on somebody, have them love on me back.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't have enough time and energy for all of that. But if I'm stuck on why she don't want me or why she going back with him,
right.
She obviously, and they're still together. They're still married. They have more kids.
Right.
So that was perfect for her. But for me, instead of the why, I'm like, okay, well, what now?
Right.
And I end up meeting the love of my life, my wife, the mother of my two beautiful sons, and we've been together for 21 years, and it started that night. Had I been in a relationship, I wouldn't have been open to meeting the person I was supposed to be with.
Bruh, and you guys really, truly love each other. I mean, you're my favorite couple in the world. I mean, like, you're the epitome of what a family is and should be.
I'm trying.
21 years in the game.
21 years, man.
I mean, I did 22. I mean, that was 3 different ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm combined, bro. I did my time, though. I did my time.
You got
3 combined, 3 divorces or whatever. I don't have that happily ever yet, but maybe one day, man.
So, number one, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, bro.
All right, and you got emotional, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be emotional.
Yeah.
The emotions have to go somewhere.
I have no shame in doing that, bro.
And, one of the biggest takeaways from what you said to me was timing, right? Things happen in our lives. We don't understand the timing. Well, why? Right? We talked about the whys and the what nows and the, right? Most people don't have the self-control that you showed on the turnpike, going to do something that's way out of your character.
It is.
Because you felt that you were put in that position. And just hearing that and hearing you take a moment, turn the car around, resonates. Because my father used to say this. My father worked in the prison system for 26 years. Some of the toughest prisons in the world. He said 90 seconds. What does that mean? He said, I'm in a building with men who changed their whole lives in 90 seconds. A 90-second decision can ruin your life or it can enhance your life. And just listening to that story, I'm like, wow, that's a 90-second moment.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that God intervened, and once again, it's divine intervention there, man. Because once again, you're right. Making the wrong decision could have totally gone the opposite direction for me, man. And I appreciate you sharing what you shared with me, because I've heard the story about you being at the Mondrian and the Beyonce. I didn't know the prior to that, and you've helped me just listening to you talking about dealing with loss now. You know what I mean? Because like I said, everything that I'm going through as far as like professionally, trying to figure out, man, I've been thinking, what now? But now I know, because of what I've lost, because of what I lost isn't because I'm being punished. It means that what now is going to happen for me and what I'm about to gain. And I pray that professionally I gain my Renice. You know what I mean? Your wife.
Yeah.
I pray that because of what I lost, and not dwelling on it, because I really haven't dwelled on it. I've been, God's taking care of me, whatever, and I've been able to, take care of myself and still hustle, whatever. But now I know what's coming next is the equivalent professionally to your Renice.
Yeah.
And that's the happily ever after that I'm looking for professionally, bro.
And that's all you can ask. That's all you can ask for, man. Look, we don't know the grand design of each other's lives, or not even our own lives, but what we can do is take time, breathe, share.
Yeah.
Be open about loss. Be open about dealing with loss. Right? Whether it's someone in your life that you know that you can talk to, there are plenty of outlets out there for you to find help, to find someone to help you deal with it. Because look, there's one thing we all know as humans. Pain is pain.
Yeah.
Whether you lose a job, a loved one, a relationship, it all hurts, right? And your hurt, my pain isn't any different than your pain.
Right.
There are different degrees. We're different people, but just know, right? You're not alone.
Not alone.
You're not alone. I'm telling you, you're not alone, even if you feel alone. And so I'm excited that we got a chance to do this episode, just you and I, and talk about this, because when we set out on this journey, it was always important for us to be open and candid about the things that we've gone through, in hopes that it would help anybody watching or listening. And the name of the podcast is Done There, Been That.
Yep.
And we just shared serious moments of us done there and been that.
Yeah. Genuine, authentic, real, transparent. And this is the reason why I wanted to do it, and do it with you, because I knew you'd be open about that. And I'm happy that we can. And I want people out there to understand that, once again, you're not alone. You got to find your tribe. You got to find your safe space of somebody that you can talk to. And if you feel like you can't talk to somebody, man, there's a higher spirit. If you're spiritual, you can find that person, but express it in some kind of way, in a positive manner. That's one thing that we also learned. A positive outlet for you to express yourself and get it out, whether it's pain, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whatever you feel. I heard Ludacris say, take an X-Lex and let that shit go. You got to let that shit go, man. You got to let it go. So we're happy that you joined us for this. We will continue to have these type of conversations throughout each and every week on the Done There, Been That podcast, man. It's just been an exceptional thing. I love you, my brother.
My guy. Love you too, brother.
And I'm always here for you, and I appreciate you always being there for us. And we appreciate you being there for us as well on the Done There, Been That podcast. Make sure you subscribe to each and every one of our episodes that come out. Get the notifications so when it comes out, so you don't miss one episode of this podcast that we're putting on for you. Till next week, we'll see you. I'm Mike Hill.
I'm Ephraim Salam.
We'll see you next week.